increases the cap to 140 million, up from 120 million. It also seeks to allow insurance companies to participate at a higher rate, but at a smaller percentage of their policy taxes. The third thing it does is it clarifies that these tax credits cannot be rolled over to the next tax year at the corporate level. This bill seeks to allow unfunded subscriptions to be reapplied for at 95% after July 1 of each year. And finally, this bill seeks to extend the funding time on all subscriptions from 60 days to 120 days. I would finally like to remind you that this tax actually saves the state money, roughly $1,500 a student, and that many of those scholarships, roughly 46%, are used by minorities, and the majority of them are the average household income on these scholarships is $31,000 per household. So this truly is an opportunity to allow people to find their school that works best for them in a way that is tax advantageous to the taxpayers of Georgia. And I will hold for any questions.
I don't see any questions or any speakers on legislation. Seeing none is the will of the committee. We have a motion to pass and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by stating aye. Those opposed, like sign. All right, bill passes. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chairman Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You ran faster than I did over here, as did several other representatives here. But so that was the only bill we could call so far? Yes, sir. Okay. So next I'll call House Bill 7, Representative Kendrick. Is she here? She's not here yet. All right. Is Representative Saines here?
There's Representative Kendrick.
Here you go. Representative Kendrick.
Yes.
You're teed up.
All right, good afternoon, members of the committee.
Wait a minute. Okay, is the mic on?
Is it on? Can you hear me?
Just
okay.
want to make sure we could hear you.
All right, good afternoon, members of the committee again. I'm bringing House Bill 7.
Tell us who you are, because the people watching online would like to know who's presenting the bill.
Oh, Darshan Kendrick, representing the great 95th House District.
That's right.
So I'm bringing, again, HB 7, and I believe that it was a substitute for some language that I can read out. But this bill passed.
Read the LC number that you're reading from.
The LC number without the substitution is LC 590033.
Yeah. So I want to recognize Chairman Blackman is going to bring the substitute to you.
Thank you.
Chairman Blackman.
Thank you. We're referring to the substitute to HB 7 LC 501191S, and I'll let the author mention it, but it's a very small edit with regard to changing degree into post-secondary credential, I believe.
Yes, so on line 39, it would change the word degree to post-secondary credential from a nationally accredited institution. But this bill passed this committee last year and made it to rules, and what it would do is give a $4,000 income tax credit to the graduate of a workforce development program in a high-tech job area. And so in a rural community. So the purpose of this really is to get more high-tech full-time jobs in rural communities so that as we talk about the workforce and technology as it's emerging, people are incentivized to go and work in our rural community. So we give $4,000 for up to 3 years, so $12,000 total over 3 years on Georgia income taxes. And so that is the extent of the bill, and there should be a fiscal note that is attached to the bill as well.
Well, this is the second hearing. Any members of the committee have any questions for the author of the bill? We'll recognize Representative Buckner for a motion. What's your?
That was such a good age.
You're recognized for a motion.
I move to pass.
Second. There's a second by Chairman Blackman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, your bill passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Who else is here? Representative Hilton, come present your bill. And give us the bill number and the LC number if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was afraid I was going to have to do this from memory. I'm working off of LC 501192S. Mr. Chairman, we had a good conversation in our first subcommittee hearing on this. You and I have had some pretty productive subsequent conversations, and I will yield to the will of the committee on any changes. This is a bill to increase the cap on our historic tax credit for commercial properties only.
Bear with me 1 second.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this doesn't look. Yeah.
Tell you what, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Is Dr. Newton here? Are you ready to present your bill? We pulled the wrong committee substitute.
You've got the summary correct, so.
Yeah, I knew that something did not.
I select a
look right.
page longer than.
So you can present there, Dr. Newton, if you'd like. What's your microphone number? If you want to, Scott, if you want to come on around here. All right, Representative Newton, if you'd give us the bill number and your LC number that we're working with today.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bring you House Bill 341, LC 501189S is a bill that is an effort to expand the medical coverage in Georgia. We've already talked briefly about the goals of the bill. Those that are often work for small businesses and who are not quite able to provide full health coverage. It's a way to let the employee pay a portion and the employer pay a portion. This is a $600 a year tax credit that gradually reduces over 5 years. We did lower it after the first subcommittee hearing. It had an increasing cap that went up to $25 million. We've lowered that to $5 million flat cap. And then also just for small employers, we've now defined instead of 50 or less to be 10 or less. This is a group of individuals that are kind of left out of our Medicaid coverage under 100% on pathways. They're not eligible necessarily for the subsidized government plans, but they don't work for employers large enough. And appreciate the committee's consideration on this new substitute, HB 341.
Got a question from the chairman of the committee.
Frankly, I was just going to thank the author and the members that have come and stakeholders that are interested in the bill and move to pass. I think y'all have been willing to work with us, and it's a first-time try, and we'll see if we can make this thing work and how it looks after a few years and come back and revisit that. So thank you, Doc. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that a motion? That was a motion.
Yeah. All right, do we have a motion and a second on the measure? Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, it carries unanimously. So we need, so we're just going to hold this bill till tomorrow because the substitute just had numerous errors in it. Yeah. All right.
So that's 376.
Okay. Is Representative Sains ready to present his bill? All right. Well, the author, here he is right here. You made it by the wire. We're just about to come on in, Representative Sains, and present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here to present House Bill 266. I do not believe we have the fiscal note yet, but again, as explained, the initial presentation of the bill, Georgia is one of only 5 states who currently tax active duty military, full-time active duty military income. This would simply put us in line with the majority of states who exempt this, and the reality, the way that federal military tax regulation works, most of them take advantage of a benefit of filing as a resident of a previously stationed state. So this really will not, using that train of thought will not impact us fiscally to a great extent. However, it would allow those individuals to fully participate as a resident of our state and highlight in my area, participate in local and state elections.
All right. Representative Prince, recognize you for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, my understanding is, so while you're on active duty, if you're stationed somewhere out of state, or if you're stationed, you live out of state and you're stationed here in Georgia, basically if you claim residency while you're here, those 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is, this is how would apply to you.
That is perfect synopsis of the bill. This is for individuals who are stationed in Georgia and would like to be Georgia residents to be able to do so without a tax liability that is not common in the majority of states in our nation.
Any questions for the presenter of the bill? Hearing if there's no questions, what's the will of the committee?
Move to pass. Second.
Got a motion and a second on the measure. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Glad you made it on time. The Income Tax Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee will stand adjourned. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call the ad valorem tax subcommittee to order and recognize Chairman Newton for House Bill 526.
Remember that when I get over, I'm like, hey.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Washburn. House Bill 526, LC 473425 that we're working over. We've recognized throughout Georgia for some time that I'm sorry. Let me restart that if you don't mind, sir. We're working off of House Bill 526 LC 501200S is the bill we're working off of. This is a recognition that in so much apart across Georgia, the value of the historic areas is exceptional. We do some help with different rehabilitated property, whether it's residential or commercial. This bill has to do only with commercial income-producing property. Currently, it has no state funds involved at all. This is just, it gives an option for a local entity, a local municipality or county that are currently limited. They can do a property tax abatement on historic property for up to 8 years, or to the end of 8 years, which is about 9-year limit. This allows them to go up to a total of 20 years, an additional 12 years in that if it's income-producing commercial property. Kind of recognizes that with the ADA requirements and things that are required of a commercial-producing entity, that those expenses can be much greater, especially if you're renovating or rehabilitating a property. This has no requirement that any county do any kind of an abatement on property taxes. It just gives them the permissive option to do so if they so choose. So it's a pretty simple bill from that point of view. Once again, has no state funds involved. It does address revenue, so therefore it's beginning in the House. So I'm glad to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Blackman has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, your bill is something I think we've heard and passed out multiple times now.
We have heard this before, and it's a great idea. It does not always make it across the finish line. I appreciate your help getting it there this year.
Well, I would certainly urge the committee to consider passage, and I would move to waive the rules and move it on to full committee in the form of a motion, if that's accepted by the chair.
We have a motion for a due pass recommendation. Is there a second? Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, if you favor it, say aye.
Aye.
If you oppose it, say no. And the motion passes for a due pass recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
The committee, thank you, sir.
And that adjourns the ad valorem tax subcommittee. Thank you.
We're all running ragged and a little thin this afternoon with a late session and with a bunch of committees meeting prior to crossover. So I'm going to step in for Chairman Martin, a woefully inadequate substitute for him, but we'll call the sales tax subcommittee meeting of Ways and Means to order. We have 2 bills on the agenda. I do see Representative Horner sitting up there, so HB 168, are you ready to present? If you'll just list your bill and the LC number and tell us what it does. I think this is the second hearing, so it's eligible for passage.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. Representative Horner on LC 500978 for House Bill 168. It is simply a bill to add an oversight step of your local delegation to reapprove the special purpose local option sales tax, or SPLOST. We had a wonderful hearing about it last time, and very talkative, and I think that's as simple as I can get with that bill.
All right. Do we have any speakers today? Mr. Handel, you would like to speak to this one, I would imagine.
Good afternoon, Chairman Blackman, members of the committee. Dante Handel with ACCG. Just one very brief comment I wanted to make for y'all, which is that it's not a continuation of the existing SPLOST, but it is a new and distinct sales tax every time a new SPLOST is voted upon, and it is always going to the voters, so they do have the final say. Just wanted to make that comment. Glad to answer any questions.
Chairman Martin. All right, I'm going to call on Chairman Newton. His comment or question there.
Just, well, I guess it's maybe for you, Dante. This bill wouldn't change the fact that it eventually goes to the voters. All it does is add the input and the step with the local delegation. But it's still the final verdict is still the voters, even if this bill passes. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Thank you.
Are there further questions of the gentleman? See no further questions.
Thank you.
I did. You're okay. And we're on the original bill, right? Okay, sorry, I was getting up to date here. We have House Bill 168 LC 500978 has been presented. We've exhausted our speakers and questions. We're in a posture that we can move on this bill. What's the pleasure of the subcommittee in regards to this matter? I have a motion that this due pass to full committee, and I have a second. Is there discussion? Discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. You move on to full committee. Sorry. There you are. Oh, I was just looking for our author out there. House Bill 429. We're ready to go that. What we have is LC 501190S. Is that what you have, Representative? So, it is going to be now. Yes, sir.
Yes, that is what I have.
Look, I love it when a plan comes together.
Give me 2 seconds. I think this might be the change that. Can you give me 2 seconds? Because I'm sure it's a professional.
Representative, I think the only change you have in this sub is the effective date. We bounced that back a year to give counties the opportunity to make sure we didn't impact the budget.
Yes, thank you.
The rest of your language remains as the gentleman
I did, and I appreciate
it.
the work. Mr. Chairman, yes, I'm working out the sub, and this came about when a constituent called me and asked me why they were paying for a car tax for a 2010 car that new car owners don't have to pay. And as we discussed in subcommittee, we thought it was a great opportunity to take the cars that were purchased prior to March 1st, 2013 and prior, and put them on the equal playing field as those cars that are newer. And so this waives the ad valorem annual tax on that. And the only difference between this and the last bill is the effective date, which I am completely in agreement with.
Yeah, it is, if I may ask a question, isn't it true that we surmise since in between subcommittee meetings here that these folks have probably paid enough tax in the last 10 or so years that they've been paying the birthday tax every year, that had they been able to just buy themselves out originally, they've actually probably paid more. They've earned the right, if you will, to switch to the new system.
That is that is a correct statement. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Are there any further questions of the author? Did we have anybody that wishes to speak to this? Anybody wishes to speak to this? Mr. Handel, you've had your fill for the day. Yes, sir. No, Dante, Mr. Handel, we kid with you a bit. You're a great resource for the counties and the people of Georgia. If there's no further questions, we are in a posture to move on the gentleman's measure, LC 501190S. What's the pleasure of the subcommittee? I have a motion and a second that this move forward to full committee with due pass recommendation. Is there discussion? Discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all of those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. You're on to full committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I see no further items on the sales tax subcommittee, and thus we'll turn it over to Public Finance. Chairman Stevens is.
In the last year, the entire no side was building tax, the new tax. The entire commission was like, it's a new tax.
All right, we will call the Public Finance and Local Policy Subcommittee to order. Looks like we got 3 bills on the agenda. House Bill 511, Chairman Eddie Lumsden. See him out there. All right, floor is yours.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring to you House Bill 511. This is a piece of model legislation that comes from the National Council of Insurance Legislators. I would note that several of our neighboring states, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, have already passed this legislation, and several other states are considering it. It deals with reducing one's taxable income by way of a catastrophic savings account, which can be used when a declared catastrophic event occurs. The savings account may be a regular savings account or a money market account, but it must be designated as a catastrophic savings account, and one must have the corresponding funds in the account to receive the reduction. Now, this only applies to individual taxpayers who own their own home. The home must be a residential property and be their primary residence. So if a person has insurance on the property and they have a deductible of $1,000 or less, they can reduce their taxable income by up to $2,000. And if their deductible is more than $1,000, then they may reduce their taxable income by the lesser of twice the deductible amount, or up to $25,000. So if a person does not have insurance, then they may reduce their taxable income by up to $250,000, but the actual amount cannot exceed their property's fair market value. So in light of the fact that we've experienced a number of storms and catastrophic events here, this just seems to be another way that we can give our citizens an opportunity to better prepare for these catastrophic events.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions from the members of the subcommittee? All right, let's see, number 15, Chairman Martin.
Real quickly, and I'm reading on the machine here, so I'm not finding it right away, but I know it had been mentioned before. In the event one looks for that you didn't need this, right? You did not have a catastrophic event. Would the taxpayer have access to that money and then just pay tax on the money at that time?
As I understand it, the mechanics of it, you may have more money in there than is necessary, but it's about what you can deduct from your taxable income. So you have to have at least that much in your taxable income. If it exceeds that, then of course you couldn't use anything that's above those limits for that purpose.
I understand, but you're putting this away and you're earning on it in the, again, event you don't look for, but you have a tragic event and have damage.
Right.
Should you go through life and that not happen, and you sell the property and you want to bring that, you want to recoup that money, does it just become taxable income?
Yes.
Okay. I thought we had talked about that.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, this is the second hearing, so I believe we are in a posture for a motion. Chairman Blackman.
I'd be happy to second it. I did want to let the subcommittee know, as I've talked to the chairman, there are a few edits that I think we're trying to tighten up, and that may take place between now and full. Is this kind of a new model legislation that you have brought to us, and appreciate what this will do for Georgians. But we do want to, I think, clarify a few things that are unique to this particular bill within Georgia Code. So thank you, Chairman, for bringing this and let me sign it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we had a motion, we had a second, and we had some discussion, all right in a row. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. All right, it carries. Thank you, sir. Now we have House Bill 532, Chairman Buddy DeLoach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a rather straightforward proposition. I think it's well that I tell you to begin with what brought this about, and then show you the two areas in this code section that we're changing. There are 2 grants available to counties that have more than 20,000 acres of state-owned land. One of those is a Department of Natural Resources grant. The other one is a forestry grant. The code section says you can't receive both. That's never been a problem because up until last year, nobody ever gotten one of those forestry grants. We started getting them last year. Hopefully have them another time this year. The problem arose because some counties, and at least one, spends an awful lot of money working on state property, and in particular McIntosh County on Sapelo Island. And they always got paid by DNR through that grant money for the actual work that they did. So the question then arose, if they're getting a forestry grant, can DNR no longer pay them for the actual work that they're doing? McIntosh County maintains all the roads over there. There's an awful lot of money spent by the county on that state property, and they've always been paid for it before. I was told that the simple way to correct this is to take the language out of the current code that prevents receiving grant money from both. And you'll find that on page 2 at the very bottom, line 40 and 41, it strikes that section of the code. And again, on page 4, lines 68 and 70, and that's what the bill does.
All right, thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from members of the committee? Okay, see no questions. What's the will of the committee? This is a second hearing, so it is eligible to be voted out. We have a due pass and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Vice Chairman Houston Gaines. Hey, there you are. Snuck in on us. House Bill 577.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 577 is a bill that we talked about last week, and we talked about a lot last year, passed the House overwhelmingly last session. That our goal here is to get the vaping issue that we've seen in the state, where you have basically an unregulated market where you have tons and tons of vaping products flooding in from China that have flooded our marketplace. And we had a study committee over the fall that really delved into this issue and looked at the challenges that we face, and continue to see that issue, especially with children in schools where these vaping products are geared towards them. Everything from USB-shaped vape products that are clearly geared towards kids. What this bill does is it creates a state-level registry, and it would run through the Department of Revenue and then give a state-level enforcement mechanism to try to get the vaping crisis under control, to where we would actually have a mechanism to enforce federal law and state law on this issue. Right now, there's no enforcement at all. And what this bill would do is create a group of a list that would be of what products are legal to be sold. And I want to reiterate, I think the most important point in all this is this doesn't change what's legal and not legal. This does not make something that is legal today illegal tomorrow. Right now, stores, convenience stores, vape stores, they don't have any list of what products are legal. So they don't know, other than the 23 fully approved FDA products, they don't know what they're selling is legal. And so you'll probably hear from a lot of people, and y'all may have gotten some emails from a few people suggesting that this is going to hurt the vape store business. And I think the question back to that is, unless you're selling legal products, this would not hurt your business. Because, and the other question is, how do you know that what you're selling is legal? Because there's no list currently out there. And so, again, what we're really trying to do is crack down on these Chinese disposable vape products. They're targeting kids, and I think that's what this bill does. A number of states have passed it. I've asked how many vape stores have closed in those other states that have passed it. I haven't heard of any. That's not to say that there aren't any, but I have asked that question. To me, this is common sense. It's a good way to get our vape industry under control. And one of the things I will share with you is I do think the current administration wants to solve this issue. and my expectation is that will happen. Whether you'll see more products get full FDA approval or otherwise, they would be captured in this bill, and I think that's important to note. And so once the current administration either allows authorization of a significant number more products, they would fall under this. And again, one thing you'll hear probably from folks that in your email inbox and that may come here today is they'll say this is creating a monopoly. That's just not true. I think it's less than 5% of the products that have been listed on registries in other states have been by a couple of companies. But what this really does is, again, give clarity in the marketplace. It ensures that when consumers go and buy a product, they know that at least it's had some level of FDA review. Again, this is not only capture those that have FDA approval, but also those that the federal government have said are legal products to be sold. And that's what the bill does. I'm sure there'll be a lot of testimony. Happy to try to respond to some of that as it happens, but I don't want to take any more time, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer questions.
Okay. We do have a couple. Chairman Newton, it's all yours first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the bill. That as an ER doctor, work with an ER team, we see injuries related to this, whether lung injuries from or ones that have exploded in someone's mouth. I've seen both of those myself, so I do appreciate trying to get some reins around, not outlawing anything. I'm not saying it's better or worse than tobacco or anything else, but at least some effort. I mean, if you smoke a cigarette and it blows up in your face or immediately damages your lungs, that's a dramatic difference. Isn't that what you're trying to do in this bill?
That's right. And again, I was trying to find the statistic here, but there was a group that recently they tested 12 of these products that are on the shelves that, again, have not gotten any semblance of FDA approval. 9 of the 12 products were misrepresented a type of nicotine in the product, and 10 of the 12 misrepresented the amount of nicotine in the product. We have no idea what's in these products. No clue. And that's what this is trying to do is, again, the products that have received approval or that are pending and were submitted in a timely manner, those will be able to be sold. And this is just another interesting statistic. The most popular vape among young people in 2024 was Elf Bar, 36% of the marketplace. That's an illegal product and is the number one selling vape in America.
Okay. Chair Lady Camp.
Thank you so much for bringing this measure. I was an EMT, and I do know how challenging tobacco products can be for many people, addiction-wise. But my question relates a little bit differently. It mentions the commissioner multiple times. Is this going to be our agriculture commissioner? Which commissioner are we referring to?
Department of Revenue Commissioner.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying.
Absolutely.
All right. Chairman Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, Representative Gaines, isn't it true at the end of the day this is a great consumer protection measure?
I think so.
And I look forward to voting yes on the bill, and at the proper time, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right. We didn't have anybody sign up on the sheet to speak to that. Was there anybody here that wanted to speak to this bill? Okay.
Yes.
Real quick.
Afternoon. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My name is Lisa Guinaud. I've been in the industry for 15 years. Started because my husband couldn't get off cigarettes, and this is what got him off. We've had a retail store since 2011. One of the things that my biggest issue with this bill, and I understand protecting our consumers and helping them out, but my biggest issue is how a nicotine vapor product is defined in this bill. It's not just about disposables, it's also about any vapor device that is designed to contain nicotine. So while there are many domestic manufacturers that are listed on other registries in other states, those would not be allowed here, because an open system is something like, I've got a device that's in here. It is not a disposable. This is what you put an e-liquid into. This would be illegal because they couldn't even register this here. The pod system that you put e-liquids in, this would be illegal as well because there would be no liquid to put it into. These are not on there. I do not know of a place where they are on a stay. And as defining it this way, the many people who have, I think Alabama has over 1,000. There are none that are for open systems. They're all for closed systems, which is like the disposable that the congressman, the representative is talking about. But this is not just making disposables illegal, except for those that have been approved or received a stay. It's all of the open systems as well. So while you might have a great deal of e-liquids that have received a stay, none of them would have anything to put into here in the state of Georgia. So they would all be gone. The other thing that I'm looking at is I can tell you that in my sales alone in my store last year, I'm sorry, I'm shaking, I'm nervous here. 42.4% of my nicotine sales were for 0.3%. Most disposables are at 5%. That equates to 50 milligrams per milliliter. Most people in an open system do 0.3%. The lowest thing on the FDA approval list is a 1.5%. There's no way for them to step down. It's either you're at a super high nicotine level or you're nothing. And nicotine is a very addictive, it's very addictive. The smoking habit is not just about nicotine, it's the hand to mouth, it's the whole process. And you're making it extremely difficult for people to get off the nicotine and work their way down because there is no step down on disposables. So please, just in closing, I'm just asking you to vote no to this bill because you are making it extremely difficult to the consumers, to the adults that we're trying to service. I've been in business for 15 years. I've never been cited for underage sales. All I've gotten from the Department of Revenue is recommendation letters saying what a good job we do because we don't sell to underage. Anybody in this room comes in my stores, you're going to be carded, period. It doesn't matter what you look like because I've had, when the age was 18, I had a 19-year-old that was bald and had a beard. You know, a 21-year-old idea of who looks old enough and my idea of who looks old enough are two different things. So we make it really simple. You card everybody. And if we did that, that alone would help protect our youth. But then you also have online sales, which this registry bill will not affect. So I still see our young people having that problem until we can tackle that. There is an issue that we have to solve, but I think this bill as it stands right now will not take care of that. It's just going to make it harder for our adults to get off cigarettes. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Next. Oh. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Susan Stutzman, and I own some vape shops in Paulding County, and I have since 2012. I'm also a board member of the Georgia Vape Alliance. I stand before you to strongly ask you to oppose HB 577. If this bill passes, it would force me to shut my shop down, as well as 1,000 plus other vape shops in the state of Georgia. This is a tobacco, what big tobacco wants. Their sales are down, and they want to try to come in and take all of our shops out. So when it all does get situated and figured out by the FDA, they want to have all of the retail stores be out of business. So I question, why is there so much lobbying and efforts on this through the big tobacco? It just doesn't sound like that they're legislating for me, the small business of Georgia. I do believe in keeping vape products out of the hands of youth, however. There are much better solutions at doing that than passing this vape registry bill. Some of my suggestions, and we've talked about, have been age restriction establishments, stiffer penalties, youth parent information to educate about vaping, sensible registry that works with federal regulations, as well as sensible taxation. If this bill passes and all these shops would shut down, mine included, there is a black market huge concern. People will go back to making devices that I think somebody spoke of that could blow up in your face if you're vaping it. You can buy $15 parts from Home Depot, and it would had vitamin E acetate, which would cause extreme health issues, including death. Those items were all black market devices. If the bill passes, including the open vape systems, as Lisa spoke about, there is not a step-down process. That is the biggest thing as a vape shop owner when people want to quit smoking that I talk to them about. Open vape systems allow consumers to go down from 18 to 12 to 9 to 6 to 3 to 0. I celebrate every day when one of my customers come into my shop and tell me that they are down to 0 and they're ready to quit vaping. I lose a customer, but they didn't lose their life. So regarding every single item that is on the FDA approved list is owned by Big Tobacco, Logic, Enjoy, and Vuse. The argument has been made knowing that these are Chinese companies that are putting into the disposables. However, both Enjoy and Vuse, which are approved, they claim that their liquid is made in the U.S., and they ship them back over to China to have them filled in China. Are we not worried about this manufacturing process? Also, regarding the commonly used brands that youth are getting, Elf bars and D's, which had not been approved, is 36.1%. However, both Vuse and Juul, which are both on the state registry, combined are at 26.3% of what youth commonly want to use. So the youth are still attracted to the approved items just as much as the illegal. Lastly, all adults who have purchased our products, they will no longer have access to them if the bill passes, and they would quite possibly go back to smoking. Whereas we all know smoking is an all-time low for both adults and children, or youth, I guess. So I just want to make sure that we're making that who are we supporting in this? I strongly urge you to oppose HB 577, and let's work together on creating a reasonable state registry. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Sure. Would you mind if the author asks a question?
Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
I'm curious how and why your store would go out of business with this bill passing.
What Lisa referred to, the open vice, the liquid that goes in there. Yep, there are about 500 liquids that I could sell. Okay, that are sitting at a stay. They have nothing to put it in. That would be excluded, as well as majority of all the other things, like they're like pouches and nicotine, things that which as a vape store, those aren't products that would be used, because smoking and vaping, it's the process, the hand to mouth, as well as, that's why Nicorette and the patch.
But any product that is stayed or that is pending and was submitted in a timely fashion per the FDA, you could still sell that product with this bill.
Correct, but there is no hardware, is what we're saying. You would not, the e-liquid, we would not do. We would be able to, yes, we would be forced to sell, Enjoy, Vuse, Juuls, those products.
So in other states that passed this, so there's, like I think in Alabama and Louisiana, there's about 800 products that are on the list. It's not just the 23 that have been FDA approved.
Correct. But when I was researching those state directories, Alabama's has been down for the past week for maintenance, so not sure how long that's been. Oklahoma doesn't look to be like they're keeping on top of it, because there are several on there that should not be on there.
And I guess my last question is, how do you know what you're selling today is legal?
We every time. Yes, it is. There is litigation. We are selling everything that we have been since I have been open since 2012. There is litigation that is going on, and there are several products that, because the PMTA process of the manufacturers has been, I don't know the legal term, I'm just a shop owner, was done, horribly wrong. They kept moving the touchdown goal line. FDA they are able to go and enforce it. They know that because of this litigation that they're not going to, because it is probably, there's no reason for us not to. It's the same as since, back in 2012 when I would sell to people, even though we didn't have a law stating how old you could be, I wouldn't sell, at the time it was 18 because that's what cigarettes were. So I followed that.
But there's no way to know what you're selling is legal or not.
Correct. So, right.
And that's what this bill tries to achieve.
I understand that, but the FDA is working on that. Why do the state have to spend the money and work on that when that is what their job is to do?
Thank you. Okay. All right. Chair Lady Camp, did you have a question for the speaker?
I do, if you don't mind answering this. So my understanding is part of the contention is the FDA does not have an open device that's going to be available on their list.
Correct.
Do you think that is by design that they don't have that on the FDA list?
I wouldn't think it would be by design because
the reason
because
being,
the nicotine level, for example, I use an open device. I have this thing and I put my liquid in it and I use 3 milligrams of nicotine. Anything on here, the lowest that's approved is 15 milligrams. It's way too much.
Well, I'm just saying, I guess from my perspective, I'm not really familiar with these, but my understanding is that by eliminating that type of device, it is being used for other things other than nicotine consumption, correct?
No.
No one else could use it for any other purpose?
My tank
I know what you're selling, but I'm just saying no one else could put anything else in there is what you're saying?
I have no idea what you're referring to.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. I have nicotine liquid, and that is what it's used for.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to figure out why the FDA would have not included those in if they were so popular and they.
The open systems are not popular.
They're not popular.
No.
So how many open systems do you sell?
Everything that this bill is aimed and geared at are the disposables, the smaller devices.
Okay.
The open system is what we would like to make sure that we would be willing to concede. I'm going to have Dylan, we'll talk about that. But the open system is definitely the nice step-down pathway that adults use to quit smoking. Yes, no kid wants to carry what I have in my hand.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see any further questions. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Chairman and committee, my name is David Jones, Chief of Staff for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office, speaking on behalf of Sheriff Owens. While rates of tobacco and vaping among our youth continue to decline, there's a continued crisis that we must take care of for our youth. The numbers point out, as we've heard, are horrifying. Over 90% of the vape market is dominated by illicit vapes made in China. As we have mentioned, Georgia's strategic locations allow for international smugglers to flood our communities with unregulated vaping products. These aren't merely unauthorized goods, they're potential poison manufactured in unregulated China facilities and packaged with youth targeting sweet flavors and bright colors to deliberately attract our children. For the law enforcement community, this is tough, being able to help our youth. HB 577 proposed product directory system isn't just another bureaucratic database. It's a vital shield protecting our youth from the dangerous Chinese imports by enabling law enforcement to quickly identify illegal products, particularly those flavored vapes flooding in from overseas manufacturers. We can finally stem this toxic tide while supporting legitimate business that prioritizes safety. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And looks like you're the last one. Go ahead, sir.
Fantastic. Hello. Ooh, sorry, I'm pushing buttons.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys today. My name is Dylan Gilbert. I live in Savannah, Georgia. My business partner and I have 10 stores around Savannah and then Columbus, Georgia as well. We've been in business about 10 years. We employ 34 people. We do have a couple of big gripes with this bill. Fundamentally, I do agree that there is a problem with youth vaping, although what the FDA has been doing has been effective in the past 5 years. Youth vaping is down 2/3 from where it was. It was 5 million in 2019. Currently, it sits at 1.63 million in 2024, which is all not to say that we don't have a problem and there's not something as a state that could be done, obviously, to address these still 1.63 million youths vaping in 2024. Our real issue is that the FDA paradigm, the PMTA, pre-market tobacco application process, was broken from the start. They've only approved big tobacco products. As Chairman Gaines, Vice Chairman Gaines has said, they will allow products that have either stays or are still pending review. The problem with that is the only people who have been able to achieve stays are large corporations, multi-million-dollar national vape corporations, whereas people like Lisa, who manufacture locally in Georgia, who have done everything right, filed the PMTA paperwork, were blanket denied on one random day in, I believe, 2018 or something like that. And it seemed that, they searched for all the products that didn't have tobacco in the name and blanket denied, and then shortly after denied the rest. And that process has, as Vice Chairman Gaines said as well, the current administration does seem to be looking into it to change it. Our issue is why are we basing, as a state, why are we spending our time, taxpayer dollars, everything, spending our time to base legislation and a registry on a federal process that is both under adjudication right now in the Supreme Court and the current administration has said they're going to change. In my point of view, we should be spending our time creating a simple state scheme for manufacturers that enable or include good manufacturing practices, marketing and labeling requirements, as well as imposing restrictions on retail stores like ours to mandate age scanners tied to point of sale. So you physically cannot sell to an underage person unless they somehow have an ID that will scan saying they're over 21. Things like that I think are very reasonable, that not only do they help regardless of what the federal rules are, if the federal laws stay the same, they are additive. They will also help in addition to those. There were a couple questions asked as far as open systems. And if we think it's by design, I don't know why the FDA does what they do. I don't assume malice where, is unnecessary. I believe they probably just wanted an easy paradigm and, a couple of big manufacturers is an easier way to regulate. But as far as open devices, there, I'm sure are, I could smoke something out of a soda can if I wanted to. Obviously, there are ways to use any device you could possibly buy for different purposes. Obviously, I've been in the industry all sorts of, for a very long time. I've seen and heard of a lot of crazy things, but the reality is our devices are not ideal if someone were trying to smoke, say, marijuana or something like that. There are highly specialized devices that one would use, and an open system for a vape device is not what someone would seek out, not what someone would reasonably seek out, I should say. Additionally, it was mentioned there are some 800 products on certain registries. In Louisiana, I was looking at their registry. It's about 500 products, vast majority of which are disposables from big tobacco companies, which are high nicotine products, or pouches. Included in that registry, there were 3 vape brands, e-liquid brands like what we would sell in our stores. And of those, you would need to subtract, obviously. Each entry on the registry is a different SKU, and each one of those is for a different nicotine level. So you might have a flavor with 4 nicotine levels, and that flavor is taking up 4 spots. So if you divide that registry, the 800 previously mentioned, by 4, and then obviously subtract all the pouches and stuff, you're left with a very limited selection, which might be workable, but realistically I don't believe so. That's most of what I had to talk about. I'd be happy to answer questions. It seemed like there were a couple questions. And then just as a thought, Vice Chairman Gaines, you had asked how we know what we're selling is legal. The FDA does post very regularly updates to their red flag list. We keep apprised as best as we can and strip all the products from our shelves whenever is mandated. And obviously they've been making huge strides. I've seen posts on the FDA website talking about seizing multi-millions of dollars worth of containers of products that are crossing over the borders. So obviously they've been making huge strides.
The list you just mentioned, as I understand, that's just where they see a mass influx of one particular brand. That's not a list of all products that should not be sold. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I have seen on their website, you are correct in that, and we do our best to keep apprised of that, like I said. They are working on some kind of, it was mentioned at the last committee, or sorry, I might be thinking of the wrong thing, but there is on their website a way you can actually search through all the PMTAs and it will tell you what the status of one is. I have to go back and find the link, but yeah.
All right, Dr. Newton.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon. You mentioned the red flag, that the FDA red flags some things. What are some examples of why they do that?
As Vice Chairman Gaines mentioned, it's if they see a large influx of certain products, it's basically to notice to all the, I guess, importing people to say, hey, look out for these products. And they have in recent history changed the way they deal with that to try to get more on top of it. I have to look at it again, but I believe it used to require them actually like searching inside the containers to see what it was, but now just on site, if they recognize a certain, I guess, packaging or something like that to be indicative of an illegal vape product, now they can just seize it without even.
I guess what makes them illegal? Why does the FDA go to that trouble? What kind of harm are they trying to prevent?
They're primarily focusing on the products that are mostly being used by youth at any given time. People will say that's because they're child appealing. It's my personal belief, obviously being very well acquainted with what's popular, what's not, and then seeing what they say is popular with youth. The products that you see that are most popular with youth are not necessarily the ones that have the most cartoonish labels or anything like that. It's the most available products. It's the same reason that what Susan said, where Vuse and Juul are 26% of youth use, and obviously you look at it, it's a green box with white on it. It's not particularly child appealing, but the reality is they're most available. Same thing with Elf bars and the like. The Elf bars were wildly popular both with youth and adults, and the reason I believe personally that they were so well used with youth is because you found them everywhere. It wasn't necessarily that they have a certain, cartoonish label or whatever that would appeal to a child.
So just labeling is the only reason the FDA steps in?
The youth use. They notice an uptake in youth use of
that's
those
the only
particular
question.
products.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh, obviously they would do it only for products that they've either MDO'd or not, pending, that are not on the registry. But primarily their focus is ones that are seeing upticks in use.
Note on the list, is it also not true that a lot of these products that get put on that list, they just overnight change the name of their product and put a new label on it and put it back on the shelves?
I've seen a lot of products change names. I don't know if that's necessarily the strategy.
And I don't have it right in front of me, but I mean, I want to say like Elf Bar, for example, just literally changed names and became Lost Mary, and that's illegal. But they just change names, and then they continually go through this process.
I guess. I don't see how that would be effective, personally. Like I said, the FDA did recently change it to where if they recognize packaging or if they recognize, the way the device looks, where they can just seize it without, double checking. So I would imagine that's not particularly effective, but
it seems like they've sold a lot of vapes to me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there are a lot of things we would support. I just think basing it on this, what we would say is broken framework of the PMTA process is not how we would like to do it, ideally, and definitely does seem to favor large tobacco corporations, obviously. So.
And I'm certainly open. I'll just mention this. Dylan has been really kind to come to all of our meetings and always has good input. So thank you. And
I appreciate it.
but I will say for the last year, I've the various folks, not, there's a bunch of different folks y'all heard from, but I've said for a year, if anybody has specific changes to the bill, I'm open to them. And so I remain in that position.
Okay. Yeah. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have exhausted all of our speakers. Are there any questions from members of the committee? No? Okay. Chairman Williams.
Mr. Chairman, at the proper time, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
Okay, appears that now would be the proper time for that. We have a motion and I heard a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. All right, you're on the full committee.
Thank you.
Which I'll believe will be Wednesday. For you, I think it'll be Wednesday.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so all the bills we have for the Public Finance and Local Policy Subcommittee, we are adjourned.
Full will start in a couple of minutes. All right, we're going to go ahead and call the full Ways and Means Committee meeting to order. And I appreciate everybody understanding us moving through these things the way we have. A lot of meetings going on this afternoon, late session. We're going to be as expeditious as we can, but we certainly want to make sure everything's vetted properly and it moves forward only after full support of the committee. Chairman Newton, would you open us up in a word of prayer? I think we need it. Yeah.
I'd be glad to. Pray with me. Father, thank you for this opportunity today. Thank you for the challenge that you've given us to represent you and think about others. Help us to do that with your wisdom and not our own. Bless this time and help us to be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Doc. We have, first I believe on the agenda is HB 7. Is Representative Kendrick still here? Ought to be able to repeat right there again. Right?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. So I have a substitute to HB 7, LC 501191S, and this would allow individuals that work in high-tech jobs in rural communities to get a $4,000 tax credit up to 3 years. They would go through a workforce development program issued through TSG, and that is HB 7.
All right, this has been favorably reported out of subcommittee this afternoon. Chairman Williams?
Movement do pass.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Bill passes.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Chairman Newton, you have HB 341. It has also been favorably reported out of subcommittee.
Correct. HB 341 LC 501189S is the individual coverage health reimbursement amount for small businesses, 10 employees or fewer, maximum $5 million cap per year, sunsets in 5 years. That's the bill, sir.
Question, Chairman Martin.
You just have a quick question. I spoke with the gentleman on the floor about the measure. I still don't understand why we're picking this particular slice of insurance as these folks can get the credit. Why not any employer that's providing their employees insurance? I mean, why does it have to be these particular plans? Insurance is, why are we picking these plans?
I can tell you just in looking across the entire insurance market with the Patients First Act covering people from 100% down, even if they work for an employer, they get theirs 65% federal, 35% state paid for. If you're above 100 to about 150 or 200%, you can get 90 to 99% of it paid by federal subsidy. You get some people who make a little more than that, whose companies don't quite have the wherewithal, larger companies. So it's a small business friendly loan. The largest companies are covered under ERISA, which is a federal preemption, and they have their whole setup that's all federally regulated, including the tax breaks that they get for their coverage. So it's really just a step to look at the entire market and see who it is that's left out of the current insurance market with all its subsidies. And you're absolutely right. There are economic imbalances, if you will, but it just looks at the entire piece and sees a group of small businesses that aren't quite there to provide full coverage, and this is just a small way to help.
My question is not about which businesses can make use of it. My question is about why only certain insurance policies, plans. If the Chamber of Commerce in your town, had a group policy, and with this, your small business could participate in that group policy, it was a different plan that didn't fit under this particular one, they wouldn't be able to get the subsidy. Is that not true?
It's not clear. This is obviously, it is, like on page 2, it is related to the federal regulation plan for individual coverage, which these 10 and under don't qualify as a small group. But
But if they, I mean, again, my question is trying to get at why are we picking, you have to be in this plan? Why, if you have an association that has a plan, if it's the association of, you know, pothole fixers, and you have a company that fixes potholes, and they could buy insurance through that group's, you know, plan together, but they couldn't get the credit under here because it wouldn't be that particular kind of insurance policy. Is that not correct?
My understanding is the goal of this plan is to get people to Georgia Access, which has a lot of different providers. It's not a single insurance provider. There are many different ones on that. We've seen a big increase in the number of plans that are willing to offer individual coverage that weren't previously before we did some changes back in 2019 and 2021. So I think this still gives choice to the patient and to the employee and to a certain degree to the employer. It's just a way to get them kind of off the sidelines where they appear to be now, and it does give them a multitude of plans to choose from.
Last question, I mean, just to follow up, I still would just want to reiterate it. It gives them a choice as long as they choose what we've put in the bill. It doesn't give them the $600 or $50 a month if they, you know, have insurance that they can buy for their folks. You know, in another marketplace, and then I'd follow up, Mr. Chairman, and just ask.
You've had an awful lot of follow-ups. Let's get to the point. Let's move on.
The point is we're picking, you know, a particular kind of insurance and just subsidizing it.
Thank you for your line of questioning. Is there any other further questions? All right. What's the will of the committee?
Second.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. In further discussion, I do believe we have an amendment. Chair Lady Camp, what number are you?
I am 24.
24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to offer an amendment on line 18 of the bill, LC 501189S. Right before the letter C in CFR, I'd like to amend it to add the number 4545.
I believe it's a friendly amendment.
Correct. Thank you for that. Thank you for that correction.
All right, we have a motion to amend. We have a second? Second. Motion and a second on the Camp amendment. All in favor, please signify by stating aye. Those opposed, like sign. All right, is there any further discussion on the original motion do pass of HB 341 LC 1189S, I believe? And it's as amended, of course. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right, bill passes. Thank you very much. Representative Horner, are you here? HB 168. Seems like we just heard from you. You may go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, House Bill 168, or LC 500978. It is a simple oversight addition. It adds the local delegation to reapproving the Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, or SPLOST. We've had wonderful discussions on it, and I hope the committee will look favorably on it.
What's the will of the committee on HB 168? I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Bill passes. Thank you very much, Representative Horner. Is Representative Wilkerson still with us? Yes, sir. HB 429. TAVT measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring to you LC 501190S, and this is what we discussed a little while ago in subcommittee. It removes the birthday tax or annual ad valorem tax on cars titled and purchased prior to March 1st, 2013, and it treats them consistently as those vehicles that are purchased afterwards. So it is effective date of January 1, 2027. And I'll take any questions.
Representative. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. All right, bill passes.
Thank you, committee.
Congratulations. Thank you. All right, we're skipping around here a little bit. HB 526, can we go back to you, Chairman Newton? Thought I'd give you a break.
Sure, a little bit of breather. Thank you, sir. House Bill, we were using LC 50-12000S is the bill that addresses historic tax assistance. It is strictly a local allowance, permissive allowance bill to allow them to go up to 20 years if they would like on a historic renovation or rehabilitation of commercial property, of income-producing property, no effect on the state budget, and it's an optional item for counties.
One we've seen a number of times, I believe.
Quite a few.
As stated earlier. So we have a motion do pass and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, bill passes. Thank you. And I do believe we have a sub ready for HB 376. Representative Hilton, if you're ready, 25? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. LC 50-120-2S. We've got a couple things going on here. This bill increased the cap. It passed through committee last year, passed through the House, just got hung up on the Senate. Really, the crux of the bill is on page 3, where we increased the cap from 30 to 50 million. Within that, we've made some changes to help more folks get involved in the program. We have increased from 5,000 to 25,000 the amount of spend there. We've changed the reimbursement down from 25 to 20%, and we've taken out the language in regards to the number of jobs. There was only one project that took advantage of that, so struck that language there. Those are the changes, and I will yield to the committee.
All right. I don't see any questions of the author. What's the will of the committee? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right, passes on the rules. Thank you. Chairman DeLoach. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Chairman.
You're not driving home tonight, are you?
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. House Bill 532 seeks to correct the situation. There are 2 grants that counties where the state owns more than 20,000 acres of land. One of those is a DNR grant. One is a forestry grant. It's never been a problem about excluding, if you got one, you couldn't get the other, and that's what's in the current code. That's never been a problem because until last year, no one had ever gotten a forestry grant. But since they're getting one now, we have a situation where a county, and maybe more than one, does work on state property, and particularly on Sapelo Island. McIntosh County maintains roads, pulls ditches. There's not a paved road on Sapelo Island. So there's an awful lot of work done over there. And the question arises, since McIntosh County gets a forestry grant, does this exclude them from being paid for the work they do there? And of course, if they can't get paid, they're not going to do the work. So it's been suggested to me that the proper way to fix that is simply strike in the current code the language that says you can't get both. And we do that and strike in 2 lines at the bottom of page 2. That would be line 40 and 41, and striking lines 69 and 70 on page 4. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, it appears as if you've got support for your bill here. So the chairman of ethics, everybody's jumping at the chance to make the motion do pass. I heard a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Remember to do your sexual harassment training.
Indeed. All right. We have one final bill before we... Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Stevens.
Representative Deloach, shouldn't you hang around just a minute to get that paper signed?
Thank you for mentioning that.
Our veteran Chairman Stevens is he doesn't miss much over there, does he? I'm going to present HB 328 for Chairman Carpenter, and I think we have a friendly amendment. I think, from a substantive standpoint, what we've tried to do is align 328 with some of the other measures like the foster care bill so that we have some consistency and uniformity in the code section. Along these lines, we do up the cap from 120 to 140, and then again, a number of other measures that kind of align us with other pieces of the code. I think most of you are familiar with this, and I know it is again passed favorably out of subcommittee. I will try to take questions or entertain a motion. We have a motion and a second. All right, in further discussion, Chairman Newton, did you have?
Sorry. Oh, as far as to amend.
Yeah, you had one slight change that we didn't get included that we wanted to, I think.
Is that on line 48? That's currently says 120 days. We want to go back to 60.
In the form of a motion?
That's a motion, yes, sir.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the Newton Amendment, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. All right, and I believe Representative Buckner also had
I had an amendment, but I know that it's not going to pan out. But I do want to raise the question, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
This was one of the very first voucher-type bills that we had, and it has no accountability that is comparable to the accountability that we have in the later versions. We do not get reports on how many of these students ultimately graduate and what the graduation rate is. We do not get reports on the number of schools that are participating to the Governor's Office of Student Achievement or the Department of Education. And I really feel strongly that all of them should have uniform reporting and accountability at some point. This may not be the time or place, but I just have to raise that because I feel like it's important for us to be fair to all. These are also supposed to be for economic disadvantaged children, and there's no rules or regs that are that have been promulgated or that are used to determine the category or if they're receiving the vouchers.
Well, I appreciate the respectful comment, and you withdraw the amendment. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
All right. Well, I see nothing further. What's the will on Chairman Carpenter's HB 328 LC 501172S with the Newton Amendment? We have a motion due. Oh, wait, we already have a motion due pass in a second. I apologize. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. No. All right. Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything else? And I should ask David, did we miss anything? Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for staying late. Appreciate the work of the committee. We stand adjourned.